All right, so anyways, y'all, I pulled up this video today. Nothing new. 7 years old. Um, man, let me just run it, man. I ain't even gonna say
Do you
nothing. Let me
believe in
just run
God?
it.
Me,
A creator?
yeah. So I'm the more I look at the universe, just the less convinced I am that there is something benevolent going on. So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all powerful and all good, that's not an uncommon pairing of powers that you might ascribe to a creator. All powerful and all good. And I look at disasters that afflict Earth and life on Earth: volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, disease, pestilence, um, congenital birth defects. You look at this list of ways that life is made miserable on Earth by natural causes. And I just ask, how do you deal with that? So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all powerful or not all good. I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. If that shows up, we're good to go. Okay? Not a problem. There's just no evidence of it. And this is why religions are called faiths, collectively, because you believe something in the absence of evidence. That's what it is. That's why it's called faith. Otherwise, we would call all religions evidence, but we don't, for exactly that reason. So I'm given what everyone describes to be the properties that would be expressed by an all-powerful being in the gods that they worship. I look for that in the universe and I don't find it. So I remain unconvinced. But if you've got some good evidence, bring it, bring it, bring it. Okay? And so I don't lead with that information because what I believe should be irrelevant to anyone. It's not about me. It's about the real world.
Now, when he said it's about the real world, that goes into like, uh, you know, the carnal mind. The man that is carnal cannot receive the things of the spirit. You know what I'm saying? So what we're dealing with when it comes to scientists is like a lot of like carnally minded people. Now, as far as like the evidence is concerned, first of all, there's evidence all around us. The very fact that we're alive, like this didn't just come together from some explosion. You know what I'm saying? Like when was the last time you saw something blow up and it just came into like some form of perfect order? You see what I'm saying? Like things don't just blow up and come into a perfect order with the sun, being revolved around by the earth every 365 days and a day being basically 24 hours. Like you don't have this kind of order without a grand designer. You know what I'm saying? So that right there is evidence. You know what I'm saying? Like, anytime somebody's mentioning these kinds of things, and they're usually not coming from a space of like really even knowing what the Bible says. Like if you want to go the scientific route, like the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, which was burned to ashes because their sins stunk so high and went up to heaven because men were sleeping with men and women with women, and there was sexual perversion of like the highest order, and it was an abomination unto God. He destroyed that city with fire. And you can literally go to that city right now and the sulfur balls are still there. So like there's your scientific evidence. You know what I'm saying? Facts. Like it's there. It just doesn't make any sense to me how you really can't see that God exists. Like it's obvious to me that God exists because like all of the laws that govern stuff, like, there's laws that govern our physical world. Like there's gravity. You can't see gravity, but it's there. And yet you don't go, okay, so what's your evidence for gravity? And then someone goes, okay, well, I drop that. If I throw this up in the air, I know it's gonna fall. Like that's my evidence for gravity. So what's your evidence for God? The fact that all of these things exist and have a purpose and an order is evidence that something put it there. It doesn't just all come in balance on its own. Like, what else do you need? You think all of this is just disorderly, like seasons coming, like we can predict the seasons, you know what I'm saying? And the changes of the weather, like in different regions having different temperatures. Like you think all of this is just from some explosion and just all these beautiful creatures and animals, and the fact that like so many creatures are similar in nature, and then there's certain creatures that are completely different. Like what I'm getting at is the fact that, like, dude, you don't get a replica or something, or a close replica of something by mistake. Like it's an order to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, who created the dolphins? Who created the humans? Like, I could see you not believing in God if it was just like one species on the earth. If it was just humans and nothing else and no one else, and there was like nothing else to look at. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could give me one thing to prove to me that gravity exists, but I can give you 1,000 things to prove that God exists. You see what I'm saying? Like, give you 1,000 things. Like the very fact that I'm able to think and have a consciousness and able to question things and able to create, like, to have ideas that transcend my current environment. Like I can think of things that I haven't even seen with my own eye before. Like that's evidence of like something far reaching. Like where does that come from? You're obviously connected to something that allows you to think that way. You see what I'm saying? Like I just don't understand how, like, don't be one of these people that's forever learning and never coming to the knowledge of the truth, because I literally, like, I don't understand how you can be so evidence based, but yet people refuse to look at evidence that isn't like what do you call it, like tangible necessarily, but they'll listen to eyewitness reports about a person that saw somebody murder somebody. But yet when someone has died and had like this, what you call a near-death experience, where it's just where like they've been clinically dead and they come back and tell you what happened, that's not evidence. It's evidence when we see somebody kill somebody and all you have is this person's word. That's evidence. But when you have this person's word about the fact that they were floating out of their body and they saw the nurses and they saw the doctors doing this, and they can tell you with perfect accuracy what the nurses and doctors said, even though they were on anesthesia, and this has been proven over many, many years. You know what I'm saying? And documented every year. There's thousands of cases documented where people have experienced this like remote viewing, which clearly they left their body. So that proves that your body is just a shell of your spirit. And so if that's the truth, then it aligns with what's in the Bible. And then there's all this evidence of these prophecies that have already come to be. And it's like, if you deny all of that, it's because you either aren't looking at it or you just were never meant to see it. And here's the thing, like, you saying that this dude literally said God is either not all good or not all powerful. No, brother. I love you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, but let me tell you something. It's not that God isn't all good or not all powerful. It's that your perception of what all good is wrong. He is both all good and all powerful. You just don't know what the definition of all good is. You think all good means that everything is supposed to be perfect in the world. But God says in the word that his ways are higher than ours. And you clearly see, like if you just read all of Genesis, you would see that God raises people up and he brings them down, and he will remove people from the earth, and he will, later on in the Bible, certain people get brought back to life. Like death, life, it's all a part of like God's plan and cycle. And the very fact that we just clinically prove that people have detached from their body, it happens thousands of times a year during surgery, that right there lets you know that what happens in your body, your physical senses, isn't even the real evidence. It's the spiritual stuff that's the real evidence. It's the spiritual stuff that's the real evidence. So how about this? How about all you scientific minded people start to think that, okay, if then is something you relate to, because that's the basis of a hypothesis. If this, then this, right? So let's say, humor me for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I pray to God and ask him to reveal himself, then either he will reveal himself or he won't. If God reveals himself to me in one or more forms, then maybe he is real. If he doesn't, then maybe he isn't real, or maybe he just doesn't want to show me that he's real. Have you ever tried that though? I'm just saying. Now maybe you don't agree that when a person is on trial, that eyewitness accounts should be a part of that. Maybe you don't think that that's enough. Well, let me ask you this. Let's say scientists went into like the desert or something like that right now, right? And dug up a machine. Maybe it's like a spaceship or something. And the spaceship can fly, right? And it can orbit. And it has controls in it. And it can move. And you don't fully understand it, but like, let's say they pushed a few buttons on it and they're like, yo, this is some high tech. This is high tech. Who put it there? How did it get there? What's the first thing that comes to your mind about who might have put it there? What do you think, it was just always there? Like, what was it, just birthed from the earth? Like, is it a natural resource? That's not what you're gonna think. You're most likely gonna think like, oh, someone went and created that. Okay, so likewise, stand back from the whole world. Just take a step back and just look at the earth. Like, imagine you were in space and you looked at it, right? And this is your first time seeing it. Would you tell yourself, oh, I think it was just there and it's just always been there? Or would you think, oh no, somebody created that? Like, it has controls, like it moves, it flies, just like the spaceship that was in the ground. Like, it spins around, like you don't see gravity, but yet you know it exists. You don't see the earth spinning around the sun, but yet you know it does. You've never seen carbon monoxide. I'll bet you every penny I ever make in my life, you've never seen carbon monoxide. But you know it exists. What makes you think that God can exist and not reveal himself to you in the way that you think he should reveal himself to you in? Jesus loves you. Have a good night.